everybody, and thank you for joining me today. So yay, starting on a new project. Well, it's already started, but this will be my first Stitch With Me session on this new project. This is the Marvelous Garden by Heaven and Earth Designs. Yes, I absolutely love this one. As soon as I saw it, I basically bought it like the day it was released because yeah, it was just so gorgeous I had to have it. Lovely, bright, vibrant colors on the peacocks, and yeah, fortunately, this one doesn't seem to be quite as confetti heavy as some of other pieces that I've done. There is, of course, some, like on the tail feathers, but there's a lot more color blocks on this pattern than there were on, say, like the Soulful Mediterranean Tranquility that I did. That one was pretty much unrelenting confetti, so yeah. In some places it was quite a slog. But anyway, I've been working sort of on a sea of pale stitches here for a while. But now we're going to get into the the peacock's head feathers right here. So that should be interesting and should really pop from the background there. So yeah, I was very excited, got Majora's Mask Clock Town finished, and I put up a video of it showing the entire finished thing and the back, because I know a lot of times people like to see the back. I will, if I remember, put a link to it so that you can check it out yourself if you want. And of course I have pictures on my Instagram of it, so yeah, that was fun. That one took like about a week past 5 months, but it was pretty close. If I hadn't also worked on other projects as well, like I worked on the Firefly for about 25% of my stitching time, so yeah, if I had worked exclusively on that one, I probably would have had it done in 4 months, maybe even less. But yeah, as I didn't work on only that project, it took a little longer, but not by much, because yeah, it was less than 50,000 stitches, which for me is not a big project anymore in comparison. Because yeah, this one's over 306,000, so. So yeah, my estimate for this one is going to be about 20 months. We'll see, you know. That's, of course, like I said, just an estimate. You never know. So not quite 2 years. 4 months under 2 years. So, yeah. But we'll see if it does end up taking 2 years. That is accounting for me also working on Firefly as well. Yeah, if I worked on just this, then it would probably be, you know, just over a year, like maybe 15 months or something. But yeah, I'm not an entirely monogamous stitcher, so yeah. I have to say, if I have a choice between a ton of black or a ton of white to stitch, I prefer to stitch the ton of black because you can see it better. The pale colors on the white is, yeah, it's a little harder to see. It's kind of frustrating. You can stitch all day, you know, and then when you're far away from it, it looks like you didn't do anything because it's all white or close to it. Yeah, so there was a lot of beige and very light blue for that corner and tons of white. So yeah, but we are now getting into some more interesting bits. Like I said, we'll have his head feathers, and then we're going to get into his head and neck as we move further over to the right. So yeah, we're going to start seeing interesting bits of the picture up here for too long, I should think. There's still some, as you can see, background here. That's just, on these huge projects, that's pretty unavoidable. Yeah, you're gonna get some background. Well, I don't know. I mean, I have seen some people do some full coverage projects that were like everything had an interesting bit. Like there's some people were doing Pokemon ones, and it's like all the little, you know, characters. So like every inch of that pattern had something interesting in it. There was like no background at all. Looked like almost like a Where's Waldo book. Okay. There was one I saw somebody was doing, and it was a Disney one, and it was a whole bunch of Disney characters. So yeah, same thing. And it was huge. Like it was so big, they basically said, you can't stitch this on 14 count. You know, it's not feasible, because I don't think you could even get a piece of fabric that big. Yeah, like 60 inches wide is the widest that I was ever able to find, and even that can be tough to find sometimes. So yeah, like for some of those you would need, if you're doing it on an 18 count, you still need the 60-inch wide, but of course then more stitches fit in that same area. So yeah, so I'm just going to probably kind of cut it off here for now and sort of start heading down this diagonal. It ended up being quite steep because I was sort of following the shape of, well, the way the colors were going. So as usual, I'm not strict. I'm diagonal-ish. Oh, look at that. That looks kind of funky. Okay. Yeah, it looks like I got it pierced. So what I'm going to do actually is pull this back to the back. Oh, I see what I did here. Yeah, that's why that looks funny. Oh my goodness. Okay, let's see what we can do here. Oh, that does not look very good, does it? Let's see. Okay, well, I'm going to fudge it. So it's not quite in the right spot. And the way it's kind of, the threads got stitched through each other. Yeah. Can't really pull it apart without wrecking it. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to come from this side and I'm going to stitch it down through here. There. As it's not a focal point, I think we can kind of fudge it. So use my snag tool to just kind of smooth this out a bit. There. So that looks pretty good. I don't think anybody's going to notice it. So yeah, sometimes I do that. If you stitch where a thread was parked, it can kind of look wonky when you stitch with the parked thread. And so sometimes what I do is just unpark it, come from the other side of the square and sort of get it to cooperate that way. Yeah, I think that looks okay. At least I'm satisfied with it, so good enough. Yeah, if it was on, you know, a focal point like one of the eyes of the peacocks or something, then I would have probably cut that out, ripped back and fixed it, but as it's still background and it's a really pale color, I'm gonna fudge it a little. You know, it's funny, I looked up where that phrase came from, to fudge something, and I forgot now how that came to be. But yeah, I always curious about the origin of phrases. See, it's funny how things stick around, you know, even after, you know, technology or fashion or whatever has changed enough that you don't know how it started. Like I said, like to pull the wool over someone's eyes comes from when people used to wear wigs that were, you know, made with yarn or whatever. And so they said, like, sort of, if you pulled somebody's wig forward over their eyes, they couldn't see. And so that's where that expression came from, yeah. Even though, you know, nobody wears yarn wigs anymore unless they're doing a recreation, right, of a historical dress. So yeah, we are 4% in on this, just past it. 12,000 stitches and change. Yeah, like I said to my husband, we still say, do we have any shows taped, even though, you know, we haven't used a VCR in a very long time. There's no tape involved. It's funny though, because my husband designed our new sound system, built it all from scratch because that's his thing he likes to do. And so he had all sorts of things. He has, you know, hookups that you can actually USB connect a computer in if, say, you have something that you can't stream straight from the TV, you have to stream from a computer. He has that to plug in so that it can show up on the TV. Yeah, all sorts, of course, Blu-ray, DVD, game inputs, and he actually included one for the VCR, even though it hasn't been used yet. But he said, you know, like, we have some, like, our wedding video is on VHS, so just in case. Yeah, it was funny because I remember I had replaced a lot of my VHS stuff with DVD. And then, yeah, I ended up asking my sister-in-law, like, do you still have a VCR? And she did. And I'm like, well, you want my old Pride and Prejudice tapes? The BBC A&E adaptation with Colin Firth and Jennifer Ely, yeah. The 6 videotape set. She's like, yeah, sure, I'll take it, because I had it on DVD by then, so. Because I was like, yeah, it's you, or I'm going to take it to the thrift stores, so. I don't know if they even sell them anymore. I remember when I was a kid, if you went to one of the thrift stores, they had walls of 8-tracks that people had donated because they'd switched to cassettes or CDs. And it's like, yeah, I doubt they would accept those anymore. They would just chuck them. Okay. 827. So yeah, starting to fill up my tray of colors here. Let's see how much this color's used. Oh yeah, quite a bit for the next while. So at least when we get into the next diagonal. So I'm going to pull that one and put it in a spot on my tray. So yeah, it's going to be used a fair bit. So now I got to rememorize my symbols now. Yeah, after I've stitched for a while, I know what symbol means what color, often without having to look at the color key. But now that I'm starting a new project, yeah, I gotta do that all over again. Yeah, there was someone who asked if they could standardize it so that, like, say the black filled in square is always, you know, this color and stuff. But yeah, they said the problem is it's just not feasible to do. You would be manually changing a lot of symbols, and also there's more colors than there are symbols, so, you know, you can't really do that because, yeah. Because I think they said the max number of symbols is 240. I believe that's what Heaven and Earth Designs uses for their max color. And there's more than 240 colors of embroidery floss, so yeah, it wouldn't work. Okay, 10, so we're in the 20 block. Oh, did I forget to cross one? Sheesh. Or no, I extended past where that should have been. It's a different color. I tell ya, well, you know what? Then I'm just going to cross it with the correct color. And because they're very, very similar in shade, again, no one's gonna know. My gosh, though. Ugh. Yeah, I'm just gonna cover it up. It was just bottom leg of the stitch, so I can get away with it. I don't think it really doesn't feel any thicker, so, and again, it's background, so I think I can get away with it. Yeah, I had a lot of people who say they stitch over an incorrect color with the correct color, and they haven't had a problem with it being too thick, so I can also tell which colors are used a lot. Okay, that one is, but not for a while, so I'm gonna not put it in the tray yet. Wait till I get there, because yeah, like I said, in my working tray, I only have a limited number of slots, so I have to prioritize which colors I use. Which colors get to be in the tray and which don't. Still in some lighter colors here. We're gonna have to move further down before we get into some darker, more vibrant blues. Got to see the background is outlining this area here. Pardon me. Yes, it's been gorgeous here. Able to take walks outside again, which is nice. Not too hot yet. Haven't had to turn on any air conditioning yet. Like I always say, I have always have a challenge with myself to see how long I can avoid turning it on. Because I'm cheap. Yeah, one nice thing out here, we're on the prairies. It's basically desert, so when the sun goes down, the temperature drops really quick. And yeah, so you can open your windows as long as it's not humid, which it usually isn't. It's usually pretty dry. But yeah, as long as it's not humid, you can open your windows overnight, really cool things down a few degrees, then close them in the morning and keep that cool air inside during the day. And then, yeah, usually means I can avoid turning on the air conditioning for, you know, 2 or 3 more weeks because of allowing the cool air in at night. Okay, so this one's a bit scattered around, so we're going to end up with multiple threads right now. And again, I'm going to zoom out. Yeah, it's used quite a bit, but not yet, so we won't have it in the tray yet. Now this is interesting. There's a lot of smaller numbers here. My last project, most of the colors were in sort of the 3800 block, sort of, yeah. Everything was in the 3000s and not. There was only maybe a dozen colors that were just 3-digit numbers, so yeah. But this one has, yeah, lots of the 3-digit numbers. Most projects I find, it's only usually about a third of them are above the 3000 or above, but yeah, the last project, it was almost all the really high numbers for some reason. Yeah, because the higher numbers are the ones they added later. A lot of times sort of to fill in gaps between the colors that were already established. So yeah. Oh yeah, lots of blues here. Wow, I think that's part of what drew me to this pattern. I love the color blue. It is my favorite. Yeah, so much so that one time when I knitted a sweater and I made it in pink, and my sister-in-law teased me and said, oh, did you make a mistake? Because pretty much everything I made up until then had been blue, or it had been like gray or black. Yeah. So. Okay, $7.99. Another blue. Definitely going to end up with a couple of threads here. Maybe even more than 2, we'll see. Now that's what happens when you get into the higher detail work instead of the background, yeah. Things get more scattered. Yeah, or my last project, the Majora's Mask clock down the upper left corner was like all blues. Yeah. I think there was like 8 different shades of blue before I got to another color that wasn't blue. Okay, so I'm going to park this here. And then I'm going to carry on with this thread going this way, and I'm going to start a new thread for that sort of area there. So they're close together, but I'm going to split them up because it just kind of makes sense to me to do it that way. So again, all right. I might pull this one out into my working tray now because I'm going to use it quite a bit for the next while. I think this is a brand new color that I have never used before. Yeah. That I had to buy just for this project. Yeah, I don't know if I'll ever get a full, complete master set or not, because I only buy the colors I use. I know there's some people who say they like to have every color even if they never use some of them, but yeah, I don't really like buying ones that I'm not going to use, especially because I worry later if the dyeing process changes, which it does on some colors because they make it more environmentally friendly, yeah, then it wouldn't match. Now see, I thought this was a white, this symbol, because it was a white in another project that I did. It was like the winter white 3865, I think, or something like that, or the B5200, something like that. So yeah, got to pay attention, especially extra attention when you're working on a new project, that you don't use the wrong color because you were remembering the symbol key from a different project. Okay, I'm gonna get another set of magnets here. Yeah, so I have something down here to stick these needles to. Darn it, unthreaded that one because it got trapped under the needle. Oh well, just rethread it later. Okay. Yeah, that's the one I unthreaded by accident by sticking a needle, or a magnet on top of the needle. That's all right. Okay, 794. Okay, it seems I have quite a few pieces of this that are short, so I'm gonna use them up. Yeah, I don't really have a piece that's big enough to do these two stitches that are stretched a little bit apart. And I don't really want to make more short pieces by starting a new big one, so yeah, I'm gonna use two little ones. Darn it. closer to go this way than to carry downwards. So yeah, I'm going to do that, and I'll use a different piece of thread when I go do the ones further down. Whoops, unthreaded another needle. Ah. Sometimes that happens. One of the hazards of stitching with multiple needles. Okay, again, let's see. Yeah, not a ton. So I'm going to start leaving some of these unthreaded because, yeah, it's going to be a while till I get to them. So, yeah, this one has a lot of this color in this pattern, over 4,000 stitches, but they're not all in this area. I can see, yeah, we're going to be branching off a bit. Okay, getting into some definitely darker colors here. Yeah, these are really gonna show up. That thread did not want to go back in the envelope. Oh my goodness. Ooh, pardon me. Oh. Okay, O2. Yeah, people are still calling these the new colors, even though they've been out for a few years now. Yeah, which I mixed up when I did my first start on this. I used O1, which is white tin, which is more of a very light gray color, instead of the actual 1 white, because that's how Heaven and Earth Designs does it. They don't write white in the pattern, they put it as 1 means white. So yeah, you have to be careful with that. And oh, what really gets me is I knew that was an issue people were having, and I still screwed it up. So what I did is I went into Pattern Keeper, and I went and found all the ones from Heaven and Earth Designs that were listed as one, and I changed it to actually say white. That way I'm not going to mix it up. So yeah, it's here in my legend. Went into the edit legend, and then right at the bottom it used to say one for this color. I changed it to say white. That way I'm not going to pick up the wrong one. I know it's actually supposed to be white. But yeah, unfortunately, I did not realize my mistake until someone pointed it out, and I was over 10,000 stitches in, so that sucked. But oh well, I always say, are you even a stitcher if you don't have a story like that? Yeah, or like starting your pattern with the fabric oriented the wrong way. So basically, like you had it in like a portrait kind when it should have been landscape, or vice versa. Yeah. Yeah, I know a few people who've done that and didn't discover their mistake until they'd done quite a bit. It was when they were moving their frame around that they realized, oh, wait a minute, it's too short on one side and too long on the other. And people misunderstood when someone said I did it on the wrong side, and they thought, well, the fabric looks the same on both sides. Like, oh no, they don't mean like a right and wrong side of the fabric. They meant they had it, yeah, they had it rotated 90 degrees from what it should have been. And now they're going to run out of room. Yeah, it depends. There were some people who just, they left off part of the design. They cropped it to fit in the fabric they had available. But I mean, that only works if you're not going to lose a vital part of the design. If you, yeah. If it's a important part and you can't really crop it out, then yeah, that's going to suck. Yeah, and trying to rip out that many stitches is also really, really tough, especially to make sure you don't actually put a hole in your fabric while you're ripping away. So yeah, what I ended up doing is I was originally going to pull out all that I did wrong, but then I decided that was going to be too much of a nightmare. So instead, what I ended up doing was I'm going to do Deer Creek by Heaven and Earth Designs. Okay, so there's quite a lot here. Yeah, this is a very used color, so I'm going to put this in my tray. So I took that piece of fabric, yeah, and Deer Creek is smaller. So if I turn the fabric 90 degrees, I can basically just cut off the mistake that I made later when I'm finishing it. I might have to pick out like, oh, did I not get this color? I was pulling 9. Oh no, I just didn't go far enough back here. Good. Okay. So yeah, so instead I might have to pick out a couple hundred stitches or something from the very edge for when I'm finishing it, but other than that, that's way better than picking out 10,000, that's for sure. So yeah. Yeah, 200 versus 10,000, really no contest. So yeah, because my sister was like, I just chucked the whole thing. I said, yeah, but I'm too cheap, but yeah. She's like, your sanity's important too. Yeah, so. And then the nice thing is by doing another project on it, all the gridding that I did, because yeah, I sew on my own grid, and it is a very tedious task. I don't have to lose all that work too. So, because yeah, like I said, the one I'm doing in there is smaller, so it will fit within the grid that I stitched on. Yeah, and I believe that one is artwork by the same artist. Charted from artwork from the same artist, Donna Gelsinger. I'm hoping I'm saying that right. If I'm mispronouncing it, I apologize. But yeah, she has so many beautiful designs. I wanted to buy them all. Yeah, there was one I haven't bought, but I've been eyeing for a while, which is, I believe it's called Garden Gate. And it's, yeah, it's really pretty. It's lots of colorful flowers and birds. I believe there's blue jays in it. Possibly cardinals. I'm not sure, but yeah, I remember having a lot of very, very pretty, vibrant colors. So I haven't caved yet, but you know, you never know, I might. Especially the next time they have a sale. I try to buy stuff that I'm definitely planning on making, so, but like I said, we'll see how long I can hold out or if I will cave. And I'm sure there's going to be plenty of enablers telling me, oh, just buy it, you know. Well, one reason too, though, is sometimes artists decide they no longer wish to, have their artwork as cross-stitch designs. They pull the licensing, and they do try to give you warning that the patterns are going to be retired, but I mean, sometimes they don't get any warning themselves and they are required to pull it immediately. So yeah, sometimes if you don't buy it now, you may not get a chance later, and then you might be kicking yourself. So, because yeah, you're not allowed to sell PDF patterns to someone else. It's a copyright infringement. You can only sell unused paper hard copy patterns, and I would not want to stitch from paper anymore. Like I said, I've been very spoiled by Pattern Keeper, and yeah, I don't think I would do it. Even though, I mean, I did do it before. I stitched my first Heaven and Earth designs, which was the Blue Dragon. Yeah, that one I stitched entirely from paper. There were a couple artisty designs that I stitched also entirely from paper. The Make-A-Wish, which was the Northern Lights scene, and the Lighthouse at Sunset, because they didn't have Pattern Keeper available then. And I started stitching the Oriental Triptych from Heaven and Earth Designs with paper, and then Pattern Keeper came out when I was partway through the first page, and yes, I switched over very quickly after that. Yeah, we didn't have any, the only Android device was my husband's phone, but, you know, he said, yeah, download it on my phone and, you know, see what you think before you commit to buying a whole new tablet for it. So I did, but yeah, after like 5 minutes of playing with it, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm still getting this. It has definitely increased my stitching output because I don't have to manually search for the symbols. And when I was using paper, I would mark things off with highlighter, and I was paranoid about getting highlighter on my stitching, so I would have to push the stand away, pick up my highlighter, mark off the stitches, then close the highlighter, bring the stand back, and you know, that's time that I would rather spend stitching. And now it's just the touch on a screen to do all that. No need to move my stand away and back. And no having to search the color key, because yeah, sometimes I would go through the color key and it's like I know the color's there, but I can't really well find it. Okay, so this is going to be pretty much out of this diagonal now. So I'm going to unthread that once I park it. Yeah, if you don't want to use Android, because they do say Pattern Keeper's coming for Apple, but they've been saying that for years, and yeah, like they said, designing stuff for Apple there's a lot of hoops to jump through, so it may never happen. So if you want to find something on Apple, there's markup, I believe it's called XRP, and yeah, you can do, it does cross stitch. You can do your cross stitch from it there, so a lot of people use that one, since if Pattern Keeper is not available to them, they don't want to get a Android device. But yeah, I personally found the purchase of an Android tablet completely worth it just for Pattern Keeper. I very occasionally use it for other stuff, like when I want to stream figure skating, I do it on my tablet. through the CBC Sports app, but yeah, I don't even really keep games on it because yeah, it's just for stitching pretty much. Yeah, I'm gonna have to upgrade my tablet too because this one does not have, it's got only I think 16 megs of storage, so yeah, I'm gonna upgrade to at least 32, maybe 64, we'll see. Because I think it's only about $30 more to get the one that has 64. So kind of at that point, if you're already spending, you know, a certain amount, 30 bucks more at that point is not a lot. So I may do that. Yeah, they do recommend don't store your patterns in Pattern Keeper, or at least not just in Pattern Keeper, because of course as it doesn't have a cloud service, if something happens to your tablet, yeah, you could lose your patterns. So yeah, always back those up in more than one place. I like to I download it to my computer's hard drive, and then I like to either email it to myself, like from one email address to another. That way you kind of have a copy on both ends if you don't delete your sent files, and or upload a copy to your Google Drive, because then that way, yeah, if something happens to the actual physical device that it's stored on, you have a digital copy on a server somewhere. So yeah, because there was some horror stories. Someone said they had a big external hard drive that they had all their patterns on, and it was like in the hundreds. And it died, and they took it to a shop, but they could not recover. It was too badly damaged. They couldn't recover it, and unfortunately, some of the patterns that she had bought were since retired, so there was no way to get another copy. Because, yeah, like, if you still had it in your order history for Heaven and Earth, they could allow you to re-download it, and I know RDC does that too, and probably other, but I haven't bought from them. But anyway, but yeah, if it's retired, then you are out of luck. There is nothing they can do because they have to actually delete it themselves legally. They can't keep any copies either. So, like someone has said, there's been a couple of times where artists left and came back, but it wasn't a case of just putting the patterns back up. They actually had to rechart it from scratch because they were not allowed to keep the original ones that they had charted. Yeah, because of copyright. So yeah, there was one artist who had a ton of work, and she left and then later decided to come back. And so yeah, it's been oh gee, I think months. They're still, Sheena Pike, they're still recharting her stuff. So yeah, or like they had one that they did for supporting Ukraine, and then they discovered after they had put it out that the artist didn't wish to have it, so they had to immediately remove it from the site. So yeah, there was no warning. So if you didn't buy it right when it came out, yeah, you missed the boat. Too bad. So sad. Oh yeah, this is a beautiful, this electric blue color. I always end up thinking it's going to be too eye-searingly bright, but once it gets stitched in and with other colors around it, yeah, it works. Yeah, I've used this one actually quite a lot. There was on my Northern Lights one, and it was on the Majora's Mask one. Yeah, I'm trying to think if it was used anywhere else. I don't think so, but yeah, this peacocks are such beautiful bright colors. So yeah, working on his head feathers here, it's going to kind of get divided a bit because the diagonal kind of goes through it, and I could go past it, but to go past it I have to stitch all this stuff above it too. And well, I feel like carrying on this way, and then I'll come and do the next diagonal, and then I will get to fill in the rest of this. Yeah, this is just lovely. Okay, so this piece is still pretty good length, and it's not too far from the other. So I'm going to carry this over here. Oh, nope, wrong spot. That was close. Yeah, I almost did that wrong. It should be here under the grid line, and this is why I grid. Yeah. This is why I will not stitch without one anymore. I am just too prone to mistakes to work without my safety net. Okay, 820. Yeah, this is another color that gets used a lot. You can see there's over 60 or 7,600 of this color in this pattern. Yeah, very popular color. Yeah, so I almost stitched that other one where this color is supposed to go, but luckily I caught myself before I had made too much of a mess. So yeah, like I said, this electric blue color is kind of split up. So sometimes I stitch across more than one diagonal, and sometimes I split it up. It just sort of depends. And the way this one is kind of already divided by some other stitches sort of between it, yeah, it just makes sense to me to split it up. Yeah, that really stands out. That color. Very eye-catching. Okay, it's trying to bring an end up, so I'm going to go the other way. There. Yeah, this branches off a bit. There's that end again. Oh, it's coming up from here. There's one drawback to doing the pin stitches into unstitched areas is when you do stitch over them, sometimes it can pull those ends through to the front, which is annoying. Yeah, before I had my snag tool, I used to use like a piece of a threaded needle to try and I said, why is it you can pull it up to, you know, the front with one pull, but trying to make it go back to the back takes like 6 of them, you know? Oh, it's so irritating. Works fine one way and the reverse is not true. Oh, it's like I remember one time my husband's brother, he had this old scavenged truck for parts, and the steering or something that was broken, so the wheels weren't connected, the front wheels, they didn't steer together, so they're trying to push it up onto the what you might call it, the trailer. And of course, as they're pushing it, the wheels keep separating and trying to go in opposite directions, so they had to keep on, you know, one of them holding it and the other one's pushing the wheels back, and then they push it forward, you know, another couple inches, and the wheels separate. And oh, this took them forever, right? And they said, so finally, when they got it, they got the parts they needed, and they were taking it down off of the trailer. They thought, well, just let it roll because the wheels will separate and it will stop rolling like right away. And then it didn't. You know, it got away from them and ran down a hill, and then thankfully they were worried it was going to hit the shed there, and it didn't. But it's like, oh, come on, when you actually want the wheels to separate. like they were doing for hours before, then they don't, right? Like, oh, I said, too bad you guys didn't get that on film, you know? You could have, like, submitted that to AFV or something. Oh, dear. Okay, so a bit of pale background again, and then we're going to get back into those lovely head feather colors again. Thankfully, most of my sea of white stitches is done now. There's a bit more. I went down to row 70 for this one, so there is a bit more below that row on the far left, but yeah, most of that is done. So I usually do 60 rows, but I did 70 for this first pass because, well, I did the math, and then that way the extra rows at the end won't be at the end, because I find it's easier to do them at the top before I have a whole bunch of fabric, you know, rolled up at the top. Yeah, so. In fact, I think my first full coverage I actually started from the bottom and worked my way up because of that, but I don't know, I just like to work from the top down now. Yeah, I remember doing that and counting very, very carefully to make sure I'd grabbed the right page first, because that would have really sucked. Yeah, a lot of people said they started in the upper left because that's page 1, and that way they could be sure they weren't putting the page in the wrong spot on the, because that would really, really suck to do a whole page and then discover it's the wrong page. Yeah, I would not want to do that. Okay, 648. Oh, and I almost did it on the wrong side of the grid line again. That is why I always try to remember to cross-check with my grid lines and not just what I've already stitched, because yeah, it can look very similar along those edges, especially in these big patterns, and then yeah, you can end up putting something that's several rows down from where you actually want it to be. So yeah, I always say it takes more time for me to grid in the beginning, but it saves me time in the long run and aggravation from not messing things up and having to fix them, because fixing them always takes longer than doing them in the first place. Yeah, when I do buy more fabric, I may buy the pre-gridded, but yeah, I bought a whole bolt that was not gridded, so I have to sew on my own grids. Yeah, unfortunately where I bought it from, they no longer are available. It was an eBay seller. But if you are in the US, Yarn Tree does sell, I believe it's a 5 meter by 60 inch wide piece. Unfortunately, they don't sell it outside of the US. It's due to the contract they have with the distributor or the manufacturer or whatever, that they cannot sell it outside of the US. So unfortunately, if you aren't there, you can't get that one. But there's Wool Warehouse in the UK. I had a viewer recommend it to me, and yeah, they sell stuff by the meter. Theirs are 43 inches wide and not 60, but for a lot of patterns, it's good. I like to check on Amazon. There will often be sellers who sell really big pieces. There was one who sold a piece that was actually 80 inches wide by a couple of meters, and they popped up for a while and then they disappeared again. So yeah, with those you kind of have to jump on it while it's available, because yeah, where I got my 40 by 60 inch 18 count pieces was from a seller on Amazon, and now they're no longer selling it. So I was glad I leapt on that when it was available. Yeah, and then there's where is it? I believe it's called Crafting Creations, sells 43 by 60 inch pieces, and they are the easy grid. So again, I may go there and get it. But yeah, if you need something that's, you know, longer than 43 inches, then that might not work. So of course, that's why a lot of people like to stitch on much higher counts, because you can fit bigger patterns on a smaller piece of fabric. But I like my big projects. I don't mind. I'm fortunate that I have a lot of wall space. So yeah, I don't think I'm gonna run out of places to hang them before I run out of patterns. I don't think I'll live long enough to do enough projects that will cover up all of my wall space. So I've got to do a bit in a row here. So yeah, like I said, like it's kind of looking straight here instead of diagonal. I'll start filling it in and making it more diagonal later, but I'll often just follow a color down until the thread runs out and then come back up and work my way down again. Which is probably what I'm going to do here, because that one I just parked is going to run out fairly quickly. Oh, yeah, neighbors are cutting the grass. Yeah, the grass was all dead and brown, but now it's finally nice and green, growing again. Yeah, cutting the grass is now the kiddo's job. It was funny, when he was little, he used to love to help. And yeah, so my husband would have to hunch over while kiddo was pushing attempting to push the lawnmower, and Dad had to lean up behind him. He was about 4. Yeah. Same with the snowblower, so yeah. It was pretty cute. He said, well, it makes him happy, so. Because yeah, it was funny, somebody said, I'd watch British Bake Off, but only if they pair each contestant with a 3-year-old who really wants to help. I said, yes, and if you make the kid cry, you're immediately disqualified, just to add an extra layer of difficulty to it. So yeah. Yeah, it's so cute when they want to help when they're little, but often their help is the opposite of helping. Yeah, somebody said by the time they're actually old enough to be able to help rather than hinder, they don't want to help you anymore. Okay, yeah, so that ran out right there, so. Okay, and I know this one is still threaded, so I'm going to do 2 more stitches, park it and unthread it, and then I'm going to go back up a bit, work some more on the blues on the feathers there. Okay, time to add a new color. No, this one's not used a lot, so we won't put it in the tray. 9, 3, 2. Okay, this piece is not very long, so. It's a long piece parked there, so I'm just gonna tie this one off. It's further to carry it from here than to carry it from the top, so. I always like to check whether there are threads of that color I have parked in case it's not enough and I would want to carry the second one. I've done that before. I tied it off and I was like, oh shoot, I should have left it attached. Okay. Come on. All right. Oops, darn. I hate when that happens. Oh yes, the electric blue again. right, so I think I'm gonna wrap this up pretty soon. Getting hungry for lunch here, so. Yeah, we got a good amount done here. Over 180 stitches, so I'm pretty happy with that progress. Yeah, we will have many more sessions on this project as we're only 4.07% in. So yeah, this is going to be a long haul. But as usual, thank you so much for joining me today and hope to see you here again another time. Great, thanks everyone. Bye.